Great pleasure to welcome Jeff Singer, absolute thunder monster from Paradise Lost, My Dying Bride. Need I go on, Blaze Bayley? We could. The list
Kill
is
to this, kill to
yeah,
this.
kill to this. The list is endless. Good evening, fella. How are you things?
Great, great. The sun's shining in Manchester, which is, as you know, is a rarity. It's not a tan, it's rust.
Brilliant. Oh, thank you very much for giving up some time to chat to me, Jeff. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
Um,
Yeah, thanks for
I,
asking.
that's all right, no worries. I know you've been a busy guy, what with Bloodstock a couple of weeks ago, that which was amazing, and we'll talk a little bit about that tonight because I'd like to touch on that if that's okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice, and yeah, we'll just kind of have a little chat through your journey, if you like, from. I know we're going to go back a little while. We're going to go back in time, like Marty McFly now, and back.
Literally, yeah. 1985.
Yeah, back to when you started drumming. And what was it that got you into drums in the first place?
I think there was always an appreciation of music. My dad's a keyboard player, and I can always remember in the 70s, not even metal really. He used to have bands like the Beatles, the Stylistics, and even ABBA. There was music in the house, and I can always remember being very aware of the 70s like pop thing, whether it be Slade or Bowie. I'm still a massive Bowie fan now. I think it's just timeless. Not everything, but most of what he did. But I think for me, the game changer was when I got into 10, 11 years old and Maiden just happened. And by this time, I don't know, it was like a switch really being flicked. And I had, some good mates who were into that kind of music as well. And there's an introduction then through, the new wave of British heavy metal. There was, and also AC/DC, Priest, certainly Saxon. And it was just, for me, it was like an awakening of, I think it was, that was where I needed to be. But I think the difference was back then and straight through the 80s was I was a metaler, full stop. The denim jacket was on, the patches were on the back. But you appreciated good music as well that was around, whether it be Tears for Fears or, even I was playing The Cult in the car the other day to the kids and,
Amazing.
just incredible bands. It was almost like an incredible awakening of all senses.
Yeah.
Drumming wise, I used to have, I can still remember it now, a friend gave me a pair of drumsticks. This must have been when I was about 10 or 11. And I can remember I used to have some books and I worked out books that sounded different tones, like do, do, do. And I had crinkly plastic bags of cymbals and I used to play. And, and that was it. I was just into it. And that was the difference with those days was that you had interest, I used to play football and big United fan and, would go to United and you just had real interest. We didn't have the net, which now, I've got 3 kids and I struggle to see, everything's like in front of them, isn't it? An instant.
Yeah,
But,
it is.
and then one day I went to a friend's house and he had this new Pearl Maxwell kit. And it was like the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen, So that led on to probably being 11, going onto the local newspaper, finding a drum kit, which I think we touched on earlier actually before the recording, that I was banging to Maiden and I saw Nico's kit, which I just found just insane. And I had this very old 60s Premier Olympic kit, really old hardware, a pair of tricks and concert toms, and I had a pair of bongos, and I tied them up with shoelaces so that I had toms going all across the front of me because I was just desperate to play like Nico,
Yeah.
And that led to probably like yourself, better kits, better bands, and I think people. The story is when I was 17. My dad lived in Tenerife, and I went out to see him, and he said to me, "We're going to." He met this. His wife met this woman who worked in an English society. He says, "We're going around to these people's house for coffee." So I'm like rolling my eyes, Kevin and Perry. We go to this person's house in northern Tenerife, and it's Carl Palmer from
Wow.
ELP.
And
Yeah,
Asia.
yeah, that's right. So he took me there. We went for a coffee. I was suddenly interested. And I said to him at 17, what recommendation would you give to somebody who wants to be in industry? And I always remember him saying to me, don't bother. And what I remember thinking for years, that was like, oh, a terrible thing to say. But what I think he meant, and I would say the same thing now, is it's such a difficult industry. If you're going to make it in the industry, tell me anyone who's not a sacrifice in one way or another. Make sure you got the back in. And I say it to people now, I say it to the kids. When I used to coach football, you know, they're all going to be footballers. Get it behind you, because you're not guaranteed. And where I've been lucky in that route is there's been opportunities and I've been able to take them, but there's been sacrifice to do it, you know?
Yeah.
And that's it. Yeah. That was, so it was a bit of a tree, really. You know, you take a branch, take a risk. But it was hard work, but I wouldn't have changed a thing, really.
It is hard. I think it doesn't matter what aspect of music we're involved in, you know. So whether you be a performer, musician like yourself, you know, active. I know you're not touring it like you were, but actively playing, you know, for the general public, to whether you are a teacher, educator, still play like myself, you know. So you still have to make sacrifices, because, you know, I spend the majority of my time in my room that you can see behind me, because that's where the money is. So I have to do that in order to pay the bills, you know. And as cool as it is, because I'm involved with drums all the time, and I genuinely love that because I'm super passionate about it. But yeah, you're right. There are sacrifices, you know, and that you are absolutely spot on with that. I think there is, and I think if anyone doesn't understand that, then they're probably trying to do the wrong thing, you know.
But it's not easy. That's the whole point. I mean, if you really believe in something, you know, you can talk about businessmen who took risks. You know, I think back to 1995 and playing in China Beach, and we decided that, you know, Mark Minot, who I'm still best friends with now and I play in Kill11 This with, is a great producer. We just said, right, we're going to do it. We called it the Ways and Means Act, and we got tours with Saxon. We got tours without a record deal. We went on tour doing arenas with Megadeth with no record deal. We just did it. We got a van. We drove for 6 weeks, slept in the van, got our own van, toured with Skyclad, Annihilator, Running Wild. You know, we grew as a band. Yeah, but we just said we're just going to do it, and we did it. You know, but that's, you know, if that's your life choice. You either step off the cliff and see what happens, or you just on the path like everyone else, and we didn't want to do that.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing, isn't it? And I mean, it's interesting you saying about the like sacrifices and things that you make. So, so a really good friend of mine who lives down in Cornwall, a chap called Brett Steptoe, who he did an interview with me about 3 months ago. So he was in a band for years called Eva 9, and they were so close to breaking, but they just never quite got where they needed to go. You know, they toured with Thunder, and they did some stuff with Feeder. You know, they did some stuff with Jules Holland. They had all these really big opportunities, but it just never quite materialized into the way they wanted to. You know, they would drive 4 hours, 5 hours in a van up the M5 and M4 to London to do a 20-30 minute show, and then drive back home again and go to, you know, they did all of that. And it's, as much as they were a success, I know there's still a little bit in them. I know they wouldn't change it for anything, but, you know, I wish that they'd had that opportunity to do what I believe they deserved to have had offered to them, you know. Everything's self-funded, you know, and I think that's really hard as well, balancing a normal 9-to-5 job, if you like. Not that any job's 9 to 5, but using that to finance the music, you know. I think that's a really tricky thing to make it work, you know.
Yeah. But also, you know, the industry's changed. I can think about, I played in a fantastic band in the very early 90s called Crow Jane Blue. We were like England's Aerosmith, and first band I went to Europe and toured with. And, you know, we were being looked at by record labels. We had a manager playing the marquee. But, you know, it's fine lines, really. It's fine lines in that I think I found with bands that I would get to a stage, because I was on a path where I think, well, this is as far as I can go with this, and I would move on. And I got to that stage with that band, unfortunately. We're still friends, you know, and everything, but I just knew I needed to be on a different path. It was quite driven, you know. And I think when I met Mark Minor, that was where I went onto the right motorway or the right freeway or whatever, that I knew where I was going.
Yeah, that's cool though. So, what influences have you had in your drumming style? I know we talked about Nico, and he is incredible. And I mean, there is no other drummer like Nico McBrain. I don't care what anyone says. No one plays like he does. He's very unique in his style. Has there been anyone else that has really stood out to you in your career as you've been developing your skills? Has there been
Ian Pace, Clive Burr, very much so. Clive Burr was an incredible drummer. He had just timing. It just, even now when I hear it, it sends me cold. As it progressed, Tommy Lee, didn't like everything they did personally, but him as a drummer, never mind his theatrics, he was an incredible drummer. In his sound and the way he pushed the envelope with sounds. Then really for me, the metal thing happened. Charlie Benante, I think he's phenomenal. I'd love to have half of what he's got. He's incredible. Dave Lombardo, who I was lucky to spend a lot of time with, he was one of those drummers. I think now when we talk about drum gymnastics, which I admire, but it's not going to happen for me.
No Olympic medal for you this time, Jeff.
I do it differently. But, Dave was one of the last generation of players, as Charlie was, that would really hit. You have a lot of these drummers now who it's a lot of triggering and a lot of feathering. But, when I've sat watching Dave at full gigs when he was with gripping, and he's just incredible. He's a hitter.
It's the power in those bass drums that really punch through. That's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, tell me, it's not everyone's cup of tea, but when you talk about game-changing times, for me, Master of Puppets was.
Wow, yeah, what an album.
Yeah, well, and Ride the Lightning, to be fair, that was when metal changed for me, but and also very much for me, like Anthrax with Spreading the Disease, but Rain in Blood isn't everyone's cup of tea, but that is a watershed moment for metal for me.
But and while we're talking about Slayer, and I think this is a thing, and when we were talking about those big 80s thrash bands, like we talked about Megadeth, and for me, Megadeth are my favourite thrash band. If I'm gonna listen to something like that I would choose to listen to that. And I've lots of respect for all those other bands. But I remember the first time I saw Megadeth was on the Rust in Peace tour, and I was just blown away by Nick Menza. Just the guy was just incredible, and I loved everything he was doing with that. Just outstanding. I also loved the whole rack that he had with all his cymbals hanging down. I just thought that looked so cool.
He was a lovely guy,
Was he?
On that tour. Yeah, they really took care of us. They were really, you hear lots of stories about bands being very aloof, but we were doing the UK with them, 4 shows, and then it turned out the support band they had for Europe pulled out, and we were actually doing the Astoria with them on a Thursday, and then at the big Astoria, rest in peace, and then we played with Testament the next night at the bottom Astoria.
Wow.
And we found out on the Thursday about the chance of this, and we said, we'll do it. And we spoke to the management, and then Friday night, they said, okay, you can do it. On the way down to London that day, we'd gone past a Beat the Street tour bus, which we recognised. This is back in the days when that company was kind of like growing. Yeah. And the driver, as we passed him on the M6, was our driver from the Gripping tour. Pulled him over to services. He says, well, told him what was going on. He says, I'll wait for you. He went to London to a bus park because he had to stop anyway. And then we found out where we got the tour. Within 2 hours, we got all our gear loaded on his bus, and we just went to Europe for 6 weeks.
Wow.
Got a mate to hire us a van in Holland, and that was it. We're off. But anyway, the point I was making was that they really took care of us. We were fed every day. We had plentiful sound check. They were really good to us.
No, it's brilliant. They are, and that's one of the things I think. I've seen a few interviews with Dave Mustaine, and he always comes over as he's such a driven guy about what he wants. But he always comes over as quite a caring guy too. I do wholeheartedly think that. I feel blessed that I was able to go and see them on, like I said, on the Rust in Peace. I saw them on Countdown to Extinction, and I saw them on Euthanasia, and And I look on that fondly, from seeing them, because they were just incredible. Yeah, I feel very lucky that I had that chance. Because where they had that, I think they had a really good. The lineup was just that golden lineup, in my
Yeah.
opinion. I'm not, others might disagree with, but I think with Marty playing guitar, and with Nick on drums, and with Dave, just what a balance they had. It's just
That was because we did the Cryptic Writings tour with them,
what, and that's
and
a great album. That's such a good album.
it really is a good album. Yeah, it really is. See, for me, Megadeth, if I put the big four, Megadeth wouldn't be my favorite, really. But you see, it's when we talk about Metallica,
Yeah,
Metallica began for me with Ride the Lightning, probably Master of Puppets,
yeah,
Kill 'Em All,
yeah.
and then Justice. But the Black Album finished it for me because it just then became very commercial, and
Well,
I get it.
and it was, wasn't it? And that's the whole thing. But it was all down to change in producer and everything like that. And of course, that's that's genuinely what happened with Megadeth as well, because obviously when they did the album after Cryptic Writings, which was it's got a song on it called Breadline or something like that, but it's only got a couple of songs which are really what I would class as being Megadeth-y, if you like, which is like Enter the Arena and Kill the King. I think they're the first couple of tracks on it. Everything else is really toned down and almost
But do you
really
not think
wet, if you like.
Yeah, but the thing is, you got to remember, if you've got a career that long and you've got the hunger, you've got the hunger. When you've listened to the energy of something like Peace Sells, that is it's just breathtaking.
That's oh my word, that song.
It's breathtaking. But
Yeah.
if you're saying to me, you're getting a comfort zone and you're going to do another 8 albums and you've got to keep churning out, no one's going to do 10 albums in a row of good albums, because you've got to be hungry for it.
Yeah.
And you might have a comeback. I mean, I look at, Metallica came back with, was it Death Magnetic?
There was Death Magnetic, and then they had some Anger, didn't they?
So I think it was Death Magnetic about 2008. And I think it's a great album. Really, it was a real, but it took for me something like 18 years, was it? Or, 10, 15 years for them to come back around for me to feel that energy in the music again. It just, but what I'm trying to say is, it's difficult to have a career that has that longevity and keep it 100%, because everything changes, lineups, attitudes, even with Maiden, it's a really good example.
Yeah, and I think this is it, and I think I mean I'm really excited actually about the new Megadeth album, because that's due out very, very shortly. So yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing that when that drops. But it is about you're right. It's things have to morph in order to move on. They have to, and things change. Whether it be like we were talking earlier on, when we were saying about bands using triggers and samples, and I know you were one of the earlier guys for doing that sort of thing and using that before it really became a thing, if you like. Whereas now it's almost becoming second nature to some drummers. It's like, well, if I don't do that, then I'm not playing properly. Having that Roland square next to them, triggering stuff, and it's really cool. I admire how they incorporate that. I really do. I think it's amazing. But sometimes it takes away the normal mechanics of what you're playing, if you like.
Yeah, but on Megadeth we had a tape machine. I think it was back then. It was like a 4-track,
right?
And then I used to have a DM5, D drum triggers, and I had 2 Yamaha electric pads. And what I'd do is I'd be triggering, and then one song, which we're still playing Kill to This actually, I would switch to my left bass drum, and I'd have sub bass on one pad and a hip hop snare drum on the other pad, and I had like a sub bass drum, and I used to play a rhythm on my other kit because I used to change kits. And back then there was so much energy and like, really into it. Now it's like just reduce everything, go on stage with a snare drum and beatbox.
Yeah, I know, but this is it, isn't it? And you look at you look at guys like Josh Dunn, who plays for 21 Pilots, and you look at everything he produces with, just because it's obviously just him and Tyler. You know, there's only two guys on stage. Or you take the guy from Royal Blood, I think he's called Ben. Yeah, you know what they're doing. It's just like, wow, it's all, you know, there's so much more that is accessible these days. It's a bit like home recording. You know, everyone can use Pro Tools if they've got a pretty good mind for it. You know, as long as you get your sounds right and everything, it makes things more accessible. It doesn't mean you've got to go and hire out a studio for a few days and you know, a few thousand quid.
Interesting. You know I mean? Sampling now, I used to embellish. We have a proper kit sound, but then I have a Roland trigger and a TM2, which I do a kick drum and a snare drum just to embellish the sound.
Yeah.
The last album I did on tape was 1999 in Trident in London. When we put it to tape. And everything since then has been digital. And the funny thing is, and I don't know if this is just me being a bit naive, because sometimes I just skim the top of stuff, but this comeback of vinyl, are we not just putting digital albums onto vinyl? You're never going to get that same, you get the same punches when you got Bonham in a bloody great big hall. You're not, you know. No. But if you listen to the Blaze album, Silicon Messiah, that was a full live kit on tape. Yeah, which just gives it a different vibe, you know.
It sounds awesome. It's a really good album. It's a really good album. As Blaze has come in, as he's come into it. So I was lucky enough. I saw Blaze back when he was with Wolfsbane, and they would Wolfsbane were touring with Alice Cooper, and I loved Wolfsbane. I thought they were brilliant. Just absolutely. There's a time when like the Almighty were around and
they're different.
Yeah, loved it. Absolutely couldn't get enough of that sort of thing, and it was really cool. And I met Blaze, and do you know, he lent me 10 quid to buy a Wolfsbane T-shirt because I didn't have enough cash to buy one. And I felt really quite humbled at that point, because I would have been I don't know, I must have been about 17, something like that. And I thought, wow, you know, you've given me 10 quid of your hard-earned cash to let me buy one of your T-shirts. And I still got the T-shirt now.
Did you give him his tenner back?
I never met him again to give him his 10 quid back. I would. I genuinely would. And like I said, I've got his autograph. He signed it on my jeans. And I've got it in a photograph album because it was just one of those moments that I will never forget, because I was really quite touched by that, you know. What was that like playing with Blaze? Was it good?
Yeah. So, God, it's a long story. Right. So I left Kill11 This. I did my last album, Deviate, which is still, for me, it's a standout album.
That is an amazing album. I listened to that today, actually, properly, again, for the first time in a while. Genuinely. I
still think it's, you know, still, for me, I mean, I'm wrong. I'm biased, of course, but I think it's still relevant. Anyway, so I did that album with Andy Sneap, and then I left the band. I'd kind of got to the point where we were trying to push it up too much. Anyway, so I left the band, and then I got a phone call about, must be 6 months later, from Andy Sneap. He says, Blaze has left Iron Maiden. He says he's putting a solo band together. They just can't find a drummer, and they've been through some really good drummers. And he said, would you come down and do these demos? So I said, yeah, no problem. I think I said no, actually. But then I did it. And because I did it because I didn't know. Anyway, and he'd assembled this fantastic band of musicians from Kerrang adverts and stuff. There was John Slater from Sheffield, Steve Ray from up near York, Rob Naylor, who's now a pilot for EasyJet, who's an incredible bass player. And from the first minute we were in a room together, I thought, my God, this is something else. And I think Blaze wasn't that keen on me because he knew I had experience. He was quite keen to have a fresh band. We just clicked. So we did the demos, got a record deal, did the album in the back end of 99, which come out. Now, the issue we had was, you know, there was a lot of plans, and when I met Blaze, you could see he's the fire in the belly, and I love the professionalism of him. You know, he's got this real never say die attitude, and it rubs off in you. And we were very excited about the band and the players. And what was great I think, how many years was it? 3 years, 4 years I was with him. And we got to do some great tours. But the background of it, and I hope I'm not going to tread on toes here, was he was under a massive amount of pressure. He was putting a lot of money in. And I don't think we realised that. He put us on a wage. It wasn't a lot, but we were on a weekly wage, which, in hindsight, it's an amazing thing. But I never appreciated, I think, till probably 10 years ago when I read a book about him, just the pressure he was under because we were in it. So on the good side, we were doing tours of Halloween festivals, doing what we're doing. Went to Brazil. We did an amazing tour of Brazil, like 8 cities, 2.5 weeks, which was like a really, when I look back at some of the best things I've ever done, that was one. But they were being really stifled by the management because they didn't want Silicon Messiah to come out at the same time as Brave New World and do well. So they really put the thumb down on it. When the second album came out, which is again a good album, we went on to Sabotage, Overkill, Headline. You could really feel it. And I think I got to the point where I just felt it wasn't going to go any further. And I think actually at the time, I was so close with the other band members and I felt he was detracted and there was stuff going on, tension and pressures. And I thought, I'd had enough. And I did the live album and I left the band. And it was only 10 years later that I really think I look at things differently and I may have done things differently, and I've spoken to him since and I'd love to see him and I got utmost respect for him. But I think at the time it was a bit acrimonious. I think it was a bit difficult. But from his side, I understand now that I didn't know just the pressure he was under,
Yeah, and the thing is, he got a lot of stick for so many things in an very unfair way,
Absolutely. A lot of the problems with Maiden on his albums was the production. Because if you listen to, not all the songs, but some of the songs, Sign the Cross.
What tune? I love that song.
Yeah, Klansman, I think it's on there.
Yeah, Klansman's great.
Brilliant songs. Man on the Edge, which we used to play.
Oh, yeah, I love that song.
Yeah, and I think, a lot of it's production. But if you say to somebody, who is your favourite, let's think of something now, let's think of a simile. I'm trying to think of a simile. Bruce versus Blaze.
Yeah.
You're going to have, of a band of that era, you'd have people who go, what's your favourite album? It's Virtual 11. Really? Have you not heard Killers? It's different generations. And one thing the internet has given is I call it giving a monkey a pen. They're going to write something. And, he got a really hard time, I think, because I think he may have been out of his depth going into a job like that, which is almost irreplaceable, you can't replace Bruce. But, I get it with Paradise Lost. There's been, 4 or 5 drummers. Volt, the new drummer, is incredible. Adrian was incredible. Matt was incredible. But they're always going to go, if you go onto a chat board, you'll say, who's the favourite drummer in Paradise Lost? Lee Morris. Oh, yeah, Lee's good. Jeff was shit. Hang on a minute.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
But people have opinions. I just believe that with Blaze, I think it was always going to be a stopgap. There's no way that, like Guns N' Roses, they're always going to get back together.
Yeah.
Maiden were always going to get back together. And I feel, he was a bit of a stepping stone, unfortunately. But he did his best and he took a career out. He's still out there. He's still doing it. And fair play,
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I remember, so I was at Donington, so before it became Download, when Man on the Edge dropped. So, and they premiered it on the big screen on the main stage. So, and I remember seeing it, and I was there with my mate Adrian, and I used to call him Greenie because his surname was Green, and I said, "Oh, Greenie, that is an amazing tune. I love that." And he went, "What, you really like it?" It's like, "Yeah, man, I really dig that. I think it's great. I think, there's legs in that sort of thing." And his reaction was, "I'm not bothered." And I thought, okay, you've only heard that once, and that was it. So you're exactly right. Everyone has their own opinion about what they think is right or wrong. And I still think, though, X Factor and Virtual X, they're underrated albums.
But you see, in the same way, if Maiden had come out and done Silicon Messiah or 10th Dimension, they were great records that we did. They really were. And of course, you always love what you do, well, tend to, but they were really good albums and suited his voice. But if you get a chance, the live album we did, As Live as It Gets, we did a cover of Sign of the Cross on it. Have a listen to it.
I will do. Yeah, no, I haven't listened to that. I haven't listened
Oh,
to
it's
that.
great.
I love 10th Dimension, and I love Silicon Messiah. I think they're great albums. I do genuinely really, really like them. And yeah, man, it's cool. It's really cool. I just
Yeah, I wish you the
really love
best.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a shame when stuff kind of goes off like that. It's the same sort of thing when you take Motley Crue, isn't it? John Corabi was never going to work.
But that album he did, that was brilliant.
It's a great album. It's a great album.
Super, yeah, yeah. Because to me, after Shout of the Devil, I was really into the first two albums, Motley Crue, at that age, and but after that, it just didn't work. But then John Corabi's album was fantastic. But what I meant to say to you before we did the interview, we were touching on growing up.
Yeah.
And I can remember being in clubs, and when I was a kid, it was like you liked Maiden, AC/DC, Metallica, Motley Crue. It doesn't matter. Yeah. Now there's subgenres, and I like vegan death metal, and I like vegan decaffeinated black death witch metal, and that's why we're doing Hellfest next year, and there's now the seven days and about 7 stages. That's because mental. The new generation I call it the iTunes generation. It's not Donington 84, AC/DC, Van Halen, Gary Moore, Y&T, Motley Crue, except I can still remember.
Good line. What a lineup, though.
It still sticks in there somewhere. But now you've got 4 stages, and what happens is people go, I remember them 2 songs. Right, we'll go there, and then we'll go and see this band, and that's what they do. There's so many stages.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I remember I read this really great autobiography by an American journalist called Lon Friend, and he's written for like Hit Parader and things like that. And I just remember him saying his book was called Life on Shuffle, and I think that pretty much sums up music now. And interestingly, we're talking about this because I was talking to my eldest daughter when in the car today, taking her to work. And
how old is she?
She's 17, and she's
right. So that's incredible, mate. You were talking to your 17-year-old daughter. My 14-year-old son doesn't talk.
Does he not?
No.
My daughter, Jenna she's well into her music. She loves. She's like really opinionated, and she says, I've brought her up well, which I like. Thanks very much, darling. Sort of thing. But we were talking about because she chose to put Aerosmith on in the car this morning. That was her choice. That was what she wanted to put on, Aerosmith. So I was like, yeah, well, that's some Aerosmith. That's good. And we were talking about just generally talking about it. And she's like, oh, you're so lucky to have all this sort of stuff coming out. And I said, yeah, but she said, what was it that got you into all of that, Dad? And I said, well, if I'm honest with you, I said, I started getting into music with bands like Transvision Vamp and things like that back in the 80s. Probably even before that, because my old man was well into Status Quo and Queen and so that sort of stuff was always going on. Anyway, I kind of detract a little bit. I said, but I had to invest in what I was listening to. I couldn't just go, oh, I fancy that album, and if I didn't like it, I could just delete it, which is what we're talking about. I had to go, well, actually, I've saved up my £5 for that album, and if I take a punt on it, I take a punt on it, and you know exactly where I'm coming from, and it's that whole thing, isn't it?
There you go. Oh, hang on. There it is. There's Apple Music. Pick something.
Yeah, exactly.
There's 100 million songs in there, Cal. Just pick something.
Okay, I'll tell you what. I'm gonna pick a random band.
No. The correct answer is I can't pick one, Cal. There's too much choice, Jeff.
Well, there is too much choice, Jeff. There is, but. And this is one of the because I've been sucked into it because I have Apple Music. We have a family subscription in our house because that's the best way of doing it. One of the things I go and do is to try and find the most obscure bands that I listened to back in the 80s, early 90s to see if there's on there. Because,
heavy petting.
But this is it though, isn't it? You're absolutely right because it's trying to find something. And there are genuinely albums that aren't on there and you think, okay, there's obviously a reason why they're not on there.
Okay,
And
so go back to the 80s
yes,
to Brook.
yes.
And here's the most underrated and big hero of my life. Not everything he did. Pete Jupp and FM.
Now FM are amazing. Now I was talking to, I've seen FM a few times live, and they are incredible. And
Pete Jupp was my hero.
Well, interesting. So, I did an interview with Pete Newdeck about 4 weeks ago. He drums with Midnight City and Vega, and he's a big producer guy for Frontiers record label and stuff. Anyway, Pete Jupp's quite a good friend of his, and we were talking about Pete Jupp, and he said, "Oh, do you know Pete Jupp from FM?" I was like, "Yeah." What do you mean? Do I know him? It's like, of course I know who Pete Jupp is. And I remember the first time it's interesting. I talked to Pete about this story. First time I saw FM, they were supporting Whitesnake. So
Right.
And the Blood Aphrodisiac had come out. But that wasn't the first album I'd heard by them. This was just the first opportunity I'd been able to go and see them. And I just remember them coming on stage, and they opened up with Breathe Fire, which is the first track on that album. And it's got this really kind of haunting keyboard stuff going on, and it just kicks on. But Steve Overland's voice, oh my word, it's just like, it's magic. It gives me tingles now just even thinking about it. But yeah, I agree. Very, very underrated band.
I saw him in '85 at Umist in Manchester. I was 14, and Pete had this great, massive, I think it was for the premiere kit, and he had really. I mean, of course, you had all the music I liked at the time, Maiden, Accept, all that stuff. But he was the first time, because I think my music taste now is a bit, it's heavier than that, to be fair.
Yeah,
I don't listen to a lot of new FM, but that album Indiscreet and the stuff they were doing when they're very early part of their career, but he's got a groove. And that's the thing that stuck with me. And he's got, I think he plays quite a small BDC kit now, but he had a groove and an attitude. And I saw him, they went on to support Bon Jovi and whatever. And
they did loads of cool stuff.
Very cool. He's a proper hero. In fact, I've not seen him for a long lot of time. I used to follow him around. I even slept in Burton bus station once when I was about 15 to see him. But I think he's like one of those people for me, like that. Yeah. Starstruck, defo, yeah.
Because it's not knowing what you would say. I think that's the thing. I would love to talk to Pete, especially again about his whole concept with the when they did the No Electricity Required album, that acoustic one, and they literally chucked everything in the back of a Ford Cortina estate or whatever, and they just decided they were going to go and do a load of acoustic gigs. And I remember buying that on CD and just thought, yeah, I love the simplicity.
Proper musicians.
Love the simplicity of that, And I think
you haven't got time now. There's no time for what they did. I'm thinking about, and you've done this as well, being in bands, 2 rehearsals a week, gig at the weekend. And what I'm trying to say is development. Crow Jane Blue, band that was in United, development, gigs in London, gigs here, gigs supported. Now you've got, iTunes, not iTunes, sorry. What do you call it? Like a digitally recorded album, get it out, do a video with a mate for 300 quid. And then the bands now, they don't do, like when we used to tour Germany, we used to do 18 shows in Germany.
Yeah.
And last time we did 4, because, and over here, you don't go small club, medium club, now it's like straight in. It's like 2 arena gigs, and that's it's just changed. There's no development, there's no investment in the bands, there's no career path.
And you have to earn your colours, I think, if you're doing that, playing, you have to play in a toilet somewhere, which makes you feel uncomfortable, but you're just having a good time with those people you're in that band with. And then you aspire to play in that next bigger step gig, and then I remember. So it's funny, isn't it? So that the first live band I ever saw was Transvision Vamp, and I only went to see them because I fancy Wendy James. That's the truth of it. And I just loved the whole.
You shallow, you bloody shallow.
It's true, but there's appreciation for the music. But that was the reason for going, because like I said, fancy Wendy James. But it was all about, and I came away from it going, wow, okay. That I want to see more of that. and that really got me into going to see bands live. Now, growing up in Cornwall, there was only one venue that was big enough to
Hey,
attract some.
Austell.
Yes, mate, and that's where Maiden played on the Somewhere in Time tour.
We
Uh,
supported Jackson there.
did you?
Yeah.
Now I saw, was that on the Solid Ball of Rock album?
No, Dogs of War tour.
Ah, see, I think I went to that.
And the thing is, where your cover was, that was 1995. Roll on, was it 25 years? There we were back in the day at St Ulster Coliseum doing socially distanced gigs. I mean, brilliant. What's the foresight there? No one was getting COVID back then.
No,
2 meters apart easily. It was so big, that place.
Such a great venue, and I saw Alice Cooper there. I've seen lots of big bands there, and it's just absolutely phenomenal. It was such a great thing. And then they shut that place down, and then you had to go to Plymouth. Then that was the next nearest place, which is where I saw Megadeth. I saw Kiss in Plymouth, which was that the first time I saw them blew me away. Anyway, I kind of detract, but that was the taste for it, and then I wanted to do more of that, So as a musician and a drummer and playing in a band, it's like, well, that's what I want to do, I want to be doing something like that. How am I going to get myself there,
who was incredible though, Cal? 13 years old, Dio and Queensryche.
Amazing.
And Vinny Appice, what a drummer! What a drummer!
That guy is phenomenal. He is phenomenal.
I listen to Last in Line now and Holy Diver still, and it just makes my heart go. I can't breathe. It's so good.
He is phenomenal, and this is the thing, isn't it? And I think there are so many exceptionally talented drummers out there, and there's a real new breed of drummers coming through as well. But they're not the metal and rock drummers, if you like. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, again, there's drum gymnastics. I mean, Slipknot's drummer is so incredible. He's so incredible, and I wish I had half his talent. And they are an incredible band. And where he's good, he's got feel. He gives them feel.
Yeah.
And then you've got drummers like Thomas Lang, who are so. They're just so, my old drum tech actually texted for him when he was with Paul Gilbert, and so I went to, and I was so starstruck I couldn't speak to him, but he's just incredible. He's really funny as well. He's got a great sense of humour.
And he's really good friends with Darby Todd, who we were talking about, who played at Bloodstock, for Devin. They learned their craft together. They were in London for like 2-3 years together. And it's just amazing when he was talking about Thomas to me, and he's saying he's just, what he can do with his hands, he does with his feet, and you just think, wow, it's incredible. It is incredible.
Drummers like that, you're not going to get anywhere without the practice and the drive. But if I just relate it to Ronnie James Dio, Ronnie James Dio woke up one day and decided to sing, and he's got it. Yes, you can fine tune it, you can hone it. Thomas Lang has it. He just has it. He makes it look easy. And that's what I'm saying. He's worked very, very hard. There's no doubt you can't do what he does without working hard, but he's got a natural talent for it. Well, what a player.
Oh, he's amazing. I watch this brilliant. I have to share it with you, actually, Jeff. It's really cool. So, Styx from Steel Panther put this thing
Seen
up.
it.
Have you seen it with the whether he's going to audition for Steel Panther? Oh man, I laugh so much. So funny. It's so funny. I love and he's just getting him to hit the crash just on his
wear this wig.
It's just it's so funny. So I love that. I laughed so much when I saw that. Oh, it's just great. I'm actually really looking forward to seeing them next year at Download. So that's going to be epic. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to Download next year. That's going to be a good. That's going to be a good
normality. Yeah, we hope.
Yeah. Well, I haven't been to visited Donington Park for a long time, so I am super excited. And I've got some friends in bands that are playing, so it'd be good. Hopefully, you never know, I might get some press pass or something to go in, have a little mooch around backstage. That would be quite cool. We'll have to see. we'll have to
Good,
see.
good, good. Let's hope. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Absolutely fingers crossed. So I'm gonna throw this at you as well, Jeff. What is, or it's probably gonna be really hard to answer, favorite ever gig?
That I've played or seen.
Both.
Um, I think it's really hard to. There's loads of highlights. Playing in the US, touring the US, not even for the gigs, just for being on that tour bus, on the Prevo bus, watching the world go by. Played on the steps of Independence Square in Kiev to 50,000. Playing Download. Just playing with Paradise Lost was a pleasure. You know, it's like being as a fanboy really. And playing in Brazil, you know, playing these incredible shows to enthusiastic fans in Brazil. You know, we did that at a time when you felt that the saturation of bands over here meant that you were playing people who were almost like this, not bothered. You know, just the unbridled joy of that. Favorite gigs to watch, yeah, Dio 83. My favorite band is probably King's X, Life Changing.
Oh yeah,
life changing band. Yeah, and I think, you know, I've seen the Foo Fighters great live. I've seen a lot of gigs. Very few when you come away and go, that was amazing. The first time I saw Alter Bridge, that was impressive.
oh man, they are amazing. I love Alter Bridge.
Yeah, but I've seen them 4 or 5 times, and they've been a bit of hit or miss for me.
Okay.
I'll tell you, I've been listening to recently. Hailstorm, really like them. Like to go and see them. I did see them with them. Difficult one. I'm just looking forward to King's X coming around again. Really.
Yeah, it's that. But this is the other great thing where everything has been so on standby because of COVID and how it's hit everything. So there are so many bands now going, do you know what? Life's too short, and we should be making more of it. So that those bands that maybe have been sat in the shadows for a little bit, you know, they're now all realizing that they need to be getting out a little bit and doing some more stuff.
But I spoke to a friend of mine last week down at Bloodstock, and he runs all the tour bus crews, and he said there's such a shortage now of stock. I think he said he's got like Rammstein out next year and Cirque du Soleil, somebody else, maybe Coldplay, of 300 trucks. Coldplay have got 40, Rammstein have got 60, wow. And I think Cirque du Soleil have got 120. Where's the stock going to come from? Yeah. So when you've got your 7-day festival with, let's work this out, 7 stages, 7 days, 49 stages then with 10 bands, how are those 490 bands getting to Hellfest?
It's mad.
You know,
it's mental,
the logistics, isn't it? Bonkers.
Just the logistics of how that's going to happen. It's amazing, and I think it's great that it's all coming back with a resurgence, and I think everyone having this positive attitude towards it all as well is just, you know, incredible. I really do hope and pray, you know, and hope the big man upstairs is listening, that we can start moving stuff forward and getting back to some normality, because, you know,
well, fair play to Bloodstock for having the bottle to see it through successfully.
It took some guts. I you know, I like you said, I hold my hat up to them for doing it. You know, it's just brilliant. You know.
Yeah, absolutely.
So while we're talking Bloodstock, what was that like playing with Paradise Lost and playing all of Draconian Times front to back? That must have been.
Yeah, I mean, half of this stuff I knew anyway. It's like muscle memory from when I was with them. I had to learn 6, which again I started learning last year really, because we had a set of gigs which we were going to do together, because Volt plays in another band with which unfortunately the guitar player's died actually, so that's put the guy out Children of Bodom. So I was kind of ready, but yeah, I was a bit nervous because playing it to Click, it felt, I mean, I'm quite okay with Click, but new complicated songs to Click, I didn't have a lot of live rehearsals. It's one thing playing it on the Roland upstairs, but playing to 20,000 odd people. But I felt on the day I wasn't nervous about the gig, I was just nervous about the monitoring. And it was great. I just enjoyed it. I just feel massively lucky, you know, to have been in that position with them. And, you know, it's knocked up my confidence when my confidence has been very low over the past few years, as we were saying, after my operation and stuff, and worrying whether I'm ever going to play again. It kicked me back into being where I need to be, you know.
That's awesome to hear, though. I mean, I love Draconian Times, and it's probably my favourite Paradise Lost album, if I'm honest. Just because I remember the first time I heard Hallowed Land, and my God, that just I remember when I heard it, I bought it on cassette because you know what it's like. Cause that's what I had in the car, and I just remember sticking it in and cranking it up and hearing that low kind of the intro to my word, amazing, just
You
amazing.
see, Yearn for Change is really
Yes.
hard to play. Yeah, thanks, Lee. Thanks for that.
Yeah,
But you see, but me and Lee were in the final two auditions before Drac,
yeah,
and Lee got the gig.
yeah.
I think it was to do with my pink drum kits didn't work in death metal bands, but you know, because I had a pink Tamagram Star, could have changed it. Thanks for that. But the drumming for Once Solemn, they stole that from our audition. That was a song they threw at me, and that bass drum beat before the verse.
Yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
was fine.
Was it?
Yeah, yeah.
See?
So not only did I not get the gig, like I remember hearing it for the first time, I was like, "That it's all right." So I was like, you know, when I heard that,
It's a we're not worthy moment, Jeff, because
yeah.
like I said, I love that album. It's funny when I told so Nick, who's the bass player in my band, and he's a massive fan of Paradise Lost and My Dying Bride. The heavier the better for him. Even ironically that we're playing a Def Leppard tribute band together. When I told him I was talking to you, he was like, "Oh, I won't tell you what he actually said while we're recording because I'd have to cut it out." But he was like, he told me to he wouldn't believe me. Let's put it that way. That I was actually talking.
Did he say something like he still owes me a tenner?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, he couldn't.
Or if I caught his stick, I'd throw it back, or something like that.
Something like that. It was one of those sort of things. Yeah, he couldn't. He was quite. He was very much. We're not worthy that I was talking to
That's
you.
really kind. No, it's funny, you know. I feel like because when I stepped off the professional side, I say it took me 10 years to kind of really get my head around it. I think it was probably pretty depressed, to be honest, but since I've come back, I mean, MDB happened off the cuff, really. But my profile now with my endorsements and just people seeming to, I heard a conversation with a producer yesterday, and I'm going to be doing this little project next week, and this producer really wanted me to do it. And the thing is, my confidence when you talk about the modern drummers, you know, I am by all intents and purposes a groove drummer. I'm not a death metal blast beat. I'm not a drummer like that, and I'm just not. And I'm sort of out of my depth in that way. But I am a groove drummer, and the fact that someone gets that at my age, and I'm kind of appreciate it. It means a lot to me, you know, because I never had that when I was professional.
Well, I tell you what, on the new My Dying Bride EP, which I know I messaged you earlier on, there are some absolutely kick-ass grooves on that, and I love it. It's exceptional.
It's really kind of you to say, but that album, Mark, who produced it, he sent me a message. He phoned me in August 18, and he said, "Do you want to do this album by My Dying Bride?" And I'd never heard them, even though I'd been in the same circles. I never really heard them. And I said, "Yeah, I'll do it." And I heard the songs, and immediately, as soon as I heard them, remembering I know what band they are, I know the death metal thing, but the way I heard these epic songs, I thought to myself, the difference between Justice for All and the Black Album was to give these songs space. And I did the album without meeting the band.
Yeah.
So they literally left me to my own devices, which is very unusual.
Yeah.
And I'd probably do a few things differently now, but you know, I've heard some comments people talk about. Again, we're talking about before about Blaze and how some people like it, some people don't. You've got some people who say, "What incredible grooves," and some people say that's not death metal. But you know, I just did what I thought was right. And when you're going into that situation, as Blaze would have done in Maiden, I had to go into a band that's been together 28 years at the time and try and do what I thought was right. So for me, it was to not go mental with the drums. It was to just let the songs breathe and give it. For me, you know, I'd rather do a fill that means something instead of all over it all the time. That's not what I do anymore.
It's interesting you say that. So when I was talking to Brett, a few like I mentioned him earlier on, he said exactly the same thing. It's all about, for him, drumming is all about space and listening for the gaps and giving the song a chance, giving songs a chance to breathe. So it's really cool hearing that coming from someone like yourself who has played with bands where everything is quite busy, to not be thinking about it not being busy, to allowing everything else to feel that it sits where it should sit rather than being forced into a gap because there's a gap there. So it's quite cool. I think that's amazing hearing that because
I've only just come to terms with it again. Really, I've been
yeah.
really beating myself up about it. Not that I'm trying to do. I don't want to do. I don't want to play like that. It's not me. It's like I'd have to relearn it. I'd spent loads of time. Last summer ago, I went through about 6 different pedals before I settled on DW, and trying to speed my feet up to, and I can't do it. And it's like I've come from a generation of a drummer, and I can't suddenly change 35 years of playing. And I figured to myself, actually, I'd just rather enjoy what I do, and be appreciative of what I do. And I think that's happened. So yeah, that's how I feel.
Oh, it's cool. I think it's brilliant, mate. I honestly do. So you touched on endorsements briefly, and I mean I know Darby when he talked to me, mentioned he's obviously got an endorsement with Pork Pie Percussion, who I had genuinely hadn't heard of, and I feel quite
Yeah.
naive that I hadn't up until when I spoke to him. So obviously you said you've recently been quite blessed with how that's happened. So where have you found yourself fitting in that side of things currently?
When I think over lockdown, I signed. Well, over the past 2 years, I signed to Roland for their triggers, and I've got the new WAV one pad and stuff, which I'm going to use for clicks and live stuff, which is great because you can have stereo tracks on a click and stuff, and it's only that big.
Yeah.
And I used the TM2. I've been with Hardcase for forever. Amazing cases, but I moved to Zildjian this year, and I'm so impressed. I've used to really love Zildjian, and I was with Sabian for a long time, and it was time for a change, and I was very lucky to get my endorsement. The quality of the sound is there's like nothing like it. I absolutely love it, and the projection and I just feel really at home. I signed a new stick deal with Vincent, who were really great. Simpad, but here the best one. Here's one I prepared earlier.
Look at that. That's very tasty.
So this is assigned to a British Drum Company, and they're a local company for me as well. And what they do is so innovative. They cold mold the shells. There's no gaps in the shell. It just the drums sing. So I've got the Merlin snare. I've just got Nico's talisman, and they've done me a legend kit.
Nice.
Really happy with that. Really, really happy.
Nice. Nice. I desperately want to try and get in touch with the British Drum Company because I'd like to speak to someone about what they're doing because it's
no problem.
I'd love to do that because but just because I want to try and it's not what I'm doing is not just about talking to drummers, and I love talking to drummers because it's the best part of my job at the moment. But again, to know where everything's kind of coming from, and I love
nobody does what they do. I tell you what, talk about get on the train, because it's not just the quality of the shells; it's the quality of the workmanship, the quality of what they do. But I'll hook you up with Mel, who's the A&R guy there. No worries.
Oh, Jeff, that would be incredible. I'd love to talk to. I genuinely would love to talk to them.
If you're coming up, I'll pick you up. We'll take you because it's local for me. So
amazing. We'll try and do. I'd love to do that. That'd be epic from my point because I really would love to do it because I've got there's a guy that I've been in touch with who actually I was put in touch with by Bob Richards who that guy's a legend. I'll tell you a little bit more about Bob in a minute, but he's put me in touch with this guy down in Wales that does custom drums. A guy called he's called Lee Smith, and he does. So he takes lots of old kits, but strips them right back, and just basically makes them nice again. Puts new lacquer on them, and just really kind of makes them sing again. And he's asked me to go down at some point to see the drum works, which I'd love to do. I will do it, but it's just finding the time to haul some ass down there to go and see it.
Did you see the pictures I sent you of the kit?
Oh mate, it's incredible. It looks awesome.
Yeah.
I want to talk to you about the kit. So With the kit, with your setup, is that your preferred arrangement that you've got there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I used to play two kicks, went down to one when I joined PL. What I've changed on that kit, I've always had 10, 12, 14. I've gone 10, 12, 13, 16.
Oh, nice.
The Talisman snare is the first metal snare that I've had for 20 years, because I had a Yamaha 9000, which I've just retired, but that was amazing. They're just exciting drums to play, they just sing. There's nothing like when you hear them, it's like, my God. And don't get me wrong, I've been very lucky to I've been with Yamaha, Gretsch, Tama. Who else have I been with? Peavy even. But there's nothing. I feel like I've really found a home, and what they're doing and the people they're bringing on board, it's like, they're just happening.
It's awesome. I love it. I mean, I've got so back when I started doing teaching and everything like that, and built this room and everything, converted the garage, and what you do, upset everybody by doing it, quit a good earning job to do it, because I had a vision that this is what I wanted to do. Whether someone says it's a midlife crisis or whatever, I don't know. Anyway, I couldn't find anything that was a full size kit which I could trigger or bring the volume down to the point where I could use it without becoming deaf in a room like this from teaching in it 4 hours a day. So I went to the London Drum Show, and I saw this. There was a company there that were triggering this full size kit. Never seen anything like it before, and I was like, wow, that's what I need. But again, it was at the time, it was like about $3,000 or something stupid like that, and that was just for the shells. And there's no way I was going to be able to stretch to that. And this was a prototype that they were putting out, and they were just wanting to see the interest. And not long after that, D-Drum announced the launch of their hybrid range at the NAMM Fest, whenever that was, 2017, something like that. And I was like, wow, that is what I need. That's the sort of thing I need. And I genuinely love the kit. I mean, it's got a monster sound when it's got just normal heads on it. I mean, I'm running silent stroke heads on it at the moment, and using a Pearl Redbox brain, so I'm triggering all my sounds. That's just a preference. But yeah, I mean, I couldn't quite get over the quality of that.
It's changing all the time, isn't it? It's changing all the time.
Yeah, it is. It is.
You know what I found though? The beauty of what they're doing with the shells at BDC is that, I mean, I've played a lot of festival kits. I've gone through them all, and I'm not going to name and shame.
No, please don't. Yeah.
I mean, you could say like hardware-wise, Yamaha hardware is for me where it's at. It's really good, and I'm looking forward to getting the BDC stuff later this year. But I've never had a kit that doesn't choke in some way. And these kits don't choke. They're tunable and they don't choke because it's one piece. Kel, is there any chance I can go get my charger? Do you want to put us on pause while I get my charger?
I will absolutely do that, fella. That's cool as. I'll just quickly hit stop. You go and do that, and then we'll join back in.
Okay, see you in a moment.
All right, mate.
Right, this is very technical. Oh my God.
We're not used to having to have cables. Well, I'm used to having cables now.
Yeah, I'm bloody am. I had a bloody cable before I got on stage on Bloodstock. It's a joke.
Oh, did you?
Okay, as in like doing a cable, right?
It happens though, doesn't it?
I wasn't, honestly, you know what? I wasn't nervous. I was just like excited to be back. I feel like it should be happening to someone else. I feel blessed. You know what I mean?
Oh well, it's lovely to hear that though, because I think, from everything that we've been talking about tonight, I just think it's just really lovely to hear that how enthusiastic you're feeling about having the opportunities to get back into everything again, and I. For me, I certainly feel blessed being able to talk to yourself and other guys are happy to give up their time to talk to me. I just, this has been mind-blowing for me.
Oh, thank you. But interesting enough, though, I've never met you, but I was talking to a guy called Federico Finles or whatever,
Yeah.
and he's from Argentina. And I did an interview with him in January, and I said to him, "It doesn't matter how old you are, where you're from, but if you love your metal and you love your drumming, you just, I may as well known you for 30 years."
Oh, well, I thank you for saying that. I appreciate it.
You know what I
Because,
mean?
yeah, and I think this is it. It's that passion for music and that love of rock, and it's interesting because so when I was talking to Pete, and Pete's been messaging me on and off for a while since we spoke. It's that camaraderie that we have.
Mhm.
You know, it's this, and it's a brotherhood. You can't say there's anything else than that. It's whether you like, you know, Motley Crue or whatever, whether you like Poison, let's say, or whether
No,
I know you won't,
unacceptable.
but you know what I mean. There's still an appreciation for where we are and what we like, and I think there's this, and it's there are exceptions to the rule. There are, there always will be, but I just think there's this.
When I was in the band, when I went into normal civvy life, because I'd done it since school,
yeah,
and I realised that no one understood me. I didn't understand anybody, and no one understood me because I stepped off a tour bus, and then it was it.
Yeah,
stepped off a plane, and that was it. And there wasn't any going back to it on next festival. That was it. I made the right decision for my family,
yeah.
but it was so difficult, so difficult. I'm talking about Poison. I can't stand them, but when I was
That's fair enough.
when I was about 16, 17, I was in a club, and I remember thinking I'm like king shit, and I'm like, I've got my tight jeans on and my leather jacket and Metallica shirt, and I'm talking to this girl, and I'm just talking away with a pint, thinking I'm like cool. And she goes, "So, what band do you like?" Manchester that is, by the way.
Yeah,
What band do you like? You don't like that Metallica, do you? And I'm like that. Put my jacket together, like that. Do you like that Poison? Oh, I love them, yeah. What's your favourite song? Anything by Poison.
It's funny, isn't it? I mean, Ricky Rocket, I think, is an absolutely outstanding drummer. I really do think that. I think he's amazing. And they just did what they did to make the money that they did at the time that they did, and fair play to them for doing that. I think that's, that I think they earned that, if you like. But, and it's not for everyone, But when you talk about that era, that Sunset Strip era, where you got bands like Faster Pussycat, that really dirty, gritty, sleazy rock and roll, that's where it's at.
Well, I saw Guns N' Roses. 1980. They're supposed to tour with Aerosmith. They got cancelled. 1987. And my mate said, "Do you want to go see this band, Guns N' Roses?" Never heard of them. And I went to the Manchester Apollo. They didn't even sell out downstairs.
Wow.
And they were incredible. And I think Faster Pussycat supported them, actually. But about a week later, Welcome to Jungle come out, and that was it.
Yeah. Mate, I mean, just that album, Appetite, that was a game changer for me.
No, 100%. I never particularly liked what they did everything afterwards.
No.
But that album still stands. It was like Mr. Brownstone. It's like, oh my God, never heard anything like it.
My word. This just stood the testament of time. And you hear it now and you think, my God, what an album.
Still fresh.
Yeah. It's as fresh and raw as it was back in 87 when it was released. It's just, what an album. What an album,
we played a festival in about 2008 or something. Maybe later than that, 2012, and we were headlining the second stage in Valencia, and Guns N' Roses with Axl were headlining the main stage. So when I came off stage, I'm like soaking wet. I've got my cymbal bag and my sticks, and I make my way to the backstage where there was 12 blokes in black suits, white ties, black tie, earpieces, sunglasses. They'd locked the backstage down. So I go backstage. This guy puts his arm in front of me and he goes, "You can't go through there, man." I won't do the accent. You can't go through there. Mr. Rose is about to go on stage. And I said, "I've just come off stage, mate, and I'm sweating my bollocks off. Let me through." And he's like that with his earpiece, like that. And I said, "Why have you got sunglasses on, you dickhead?" It's 10 o'clock at night. I can't see a thing. Anyway.
Oh, but this is it though, isn't it? I've been reading Mick Wall from who used to work for Kerrang
Yeah.
and did I've been reading his autobiography actually. And it's really interesting some of the stuff he's put in there. And I mean obviously some of it's been stripped back. And he was talking about David Lee Roth. And when he went to Monsters of Rock and it was asked to interview them. So he said it was really I loved it. It was really funny. So he said they got backstage and Van Halen had their own little area. So there was backstage and then there was backstage, essentially. That's how he put it. And he said it was like three camper vans, and you had so it was just so Alex and Edward, I should call him, not Eddie, because he didn't like being called Eddie. And they were just chilling, having a beer, you know, all taking it easy, and but Dave Lee Roth was doing all these exercises with his fitness coach, and you know, like you do apparently, with sunglasses on and a tight Adidas tracksuit on, and he goes up to it, and the like his physical trainer said to him, "No, Mr. Roth can't talk to you now because he's doing his workout. He'll speak to you in 5 minutes." So literally goes to talk to him afterwards because he's ready for you now, man. So he goes over and he literally asks him one thing, and he said, "I can't talk to you anymore. We'll have to do this another time." And he was just genuinely, "But you've invited me here. Yeah. I'm here, and now you can't be bothered to speak to me." So then he goes over to speak to Alex and Edward. So he sat down chilling with them, which is really cool. And I can imagine that being quite a out of body experience, if you like. To this bodyguard guy coming over and then asking him, "Mr. Roth will see you now." It's like,
yeah.
Wow.
What a loss there. What a loss Edward is to losing Edward.
I can't believe that. I can't believe,
heartbreaking.
Yeah, and again, a pioneer and a game changer for metal, in everything he did. I think
you should read David Lee Roth's book, Crazy from the Heat. Really good. Really good. Talks about Van Halen and really, I mean, it talks about the way they realised when they were getting big how all the bootleggers were selling T-shirts, so they bootlegged their own T-shirts. Just little stuff like that. Just brilliant. Absolutely great.
But that's it though, isn't it? And I think that's where they were thinking outside of the box. And that's what got them to where they were because of that. They were,
I'll tell you what I watched as well recently. Sorry, there's always so much to talk about.
No, mate, go for it.
I've just been on to Spain, and I got on Netflix. I downloaded the Twisted Sister documentary.
That is amazing.
That's great. It's just great.
Oh
and we want to watch the ZZ Top one. Another loss there.
I couldn't believe Dusty Hill.
And the other one that's on there is the Rush one. Rush Beyond the Light Stage.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
There's some really good stuff around because Dee Snider's got a new album out.
Yeah.
If you haven't heard it, absolutely need to. It's like it's old school rock and roll. It's just amazing, and his voice is still there. It's just
they were amazing. I mean, I was thinking as we're talking about bands, I think about bands I've seen and bands we grew up with. But I think I went to see them at the Astoria 2004, and they were still amazing, absolutely great.
Just fab. I love that because it's all about the love and the passion for what they do, and that's what it's about, And I think if you can do that and not be ego driven about it and just enjoy it for what it is, that's how it should be,
Defo.
It really is how it should be. The first time I saw Kiss was on the Revenge tour in '92, and it was just as Eric Singer had joined them because obviously Eric Carr had passed away and everything, so that was all quite sad. But he blew me away with his style. But they had an American band called Danger Danger supporting them.
Yeah, remember them.
Yeah, and I was out in the bar and I got to meet Steve West, the drummer, and I got talking to him, and he was just such a nice bloke. I didn't think he was going to give me the time of day because he's going to want to talk to sweaty 16-year-old kid, with a mullet from Cornwall. Do you know what I mean? It was that whole. But he did. He gave me the time of day, I really is the same. When I said about meeting Blaze, it was that whole thing. It was just they were happy to give up their time to chat. Nothing.
You got to remember though, what's the reason they're there? This is something I've always held dear. Is why do you think Metallica are as big as they are?
It's all about the fan. It's all about the fan base. It's all about the fans.
So September the 17th, 1986, went to see them. And after the gig, 400 fans waited behind. They were let back into the Apollo, and Metallica came out, and they signed everything, photos with everybody, and they must have done that every night. That's why Metallica are big, and that's the reason. I've sat there doing 6 weeks of dates, and I'm like knackered, and you want to go home, and you're just exhausted, and your hands are raw. But I also think here I am in Cologne playing a sold-out show. How lucky am I? And that's everything. This is what got me, is that all those dreams, let's go back to start the conversation.
Yes.
From playing those books to the plastic bags, to having the Yamaha rack system on the wall from 1988, the white kit, which is the big poster boy kit, to having that kit and being endorsed by him, to everything that you've dreamed about. Don't tell me that some kid wanted an autograph in Cologne when you've done 6 weeks of sold-out shows in your big bastard bus, being fed every day and getting free booze. Yes, you give that time up because you're lucky to be there.
I think you're right. I think it's so important to share the love.
But we're still fans. That's the point.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm talking to you as a fan as much as I'm talking to you about talking to you about your career and everything like that, because that's what it's about. Because I am genuinely super passionate about all of this, and it's just such an amazing thing to be a part of. And we talked about the brotherhood, the camaraderie of it all, and it's there. It is. It doesn't matter whether you're wearing a Wasp T-shirt which says 89 and headless on it, or whether you're wearing a Metallica Ride the Lightning T-shirt, or whether it's recognition and respect for that. And I think that is
it's a shared meaning. That's the point.
You are right. It's a shared meaning, and it does mean a hell of a lot to a lot of people.
Yeah, I'll tell you. I mean, I look back now, and when we supported Grip, I was very, very good friends with Gus, who's sadly no longer with us. He's devastated, really. It's been 10 years, I think, now. But I went to America with Gus and did a project in 98, I think it was. And the drummer was supposed to do it. There was Paul Raven from Prong, Killing Joke.
Yeah.
I played Ministry, me and Gus, because Gus was Paul's brother-in-law. All that band.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. Cool.
Talk about I call it my Final Destination moment. They're all gone.
I didn't mean that to say it was cool that they were gone. I didn't mean it like that.
No.
But the guys you were working with.
Incredible. But the drummer who was going to do it was Matt Sorum, and he couldn't do it. And I love Matt Sorum. In fact, it all went wrong one reason or another. I can't go into it for legal reasons. We were on the front pages of the German rock magazines, but the money disappeared. Which I can't talk about. But anyway, so but Matt Sorum, have you heard his stuff in like Velvet Revolver?
Mate, I love Velvet Revolver. That guy, he's so cool. I genuinely love. And in my last band, I was in a band called Ember's Fire. Ironically, we weren't a Paradise Lost tribute or anything. I just liked the name, and I always thought that would make a cool name for a band. And we used to do Slither as that was our opening track, because I loved the beginning with that floor tom, it just still kicks out now.
Scott Weiland, it's like, oh my God, all these heroes, all this talent. I mean, what a loss. Also, Eric Singer, go back to him.
Yeah.
Sadly, no namesake. He was a good one. His stuff in Badlands.
I love Badlands. Badlands are incredible.
Yeah, and it's funny, isn't it, though? I mean, I'm looking at actually my CD collection here. I don't listen to CDs anymore, but I can just individually picture where I was when I bought every CD.
But there is something about that, isn't there? So I
Yeah.
was talking to so the first of these podcasts I did was with Shutty from TerraVision. So Bradford boys, all about the booze and laughs and good times and everything like that.
Well, my
And we
mate
were
Millie, who plays keyboards with PL, he
yeah.
plays for television.
Amazing. That's
Yeah,
so
so I was with him in obviously did Bloodstock with him, and then
yeah.
we were both in Wales. So I met him in Carnarvon last week with all the
Awesome.
kids and stuff. It was nice.
So cool. And Shutty was just, they were talking, and we were talking about highlights and all that sort of thing. We were talking about same thing we're talking about now about where you were when you bought an album and all those sorts of things. And again, going back to what we were saying about like life being on shuffle, actually, that's it, isn't it? There isn't that value on that anymore. And going, oh yeah, I remember when I bought that, or yeah, I was in our price at the listening station. I heard one track, thought I'd go and take a punt for £5. There's none of that anymore. Because everything is just on your phone.
Well, my lad who's 16,
Yeah.
he's 6'4". He'll probably ring on the bell in a minute because he's out playing football. He says to me he wished he'd been born in a different time without the internet, because he just sees the sort of pleasure that and the life affirming direction it's given us all, for right or wrong, really. Not me. We're eternal kids, aren't we? But I tell you what, I'd rather be an eternal kid than some bored businessman.
Yeah. I mean, my mum says I've got Peter Pan syndrome. That's what she calls it.
Just tell her to put Rain in Blood on and shh.
Well, she had to put up with my old man, and he was, like I said, he was into Quo and Queen and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And that was it. But that's what got me into that style. I just loved it. Couldn't get enough of it.
Well, Queen, I actually saw him live. I was very lucky.
Yeah. I've seen. So I saw Roger Taylor when he did his own his solo project, and I saw. Yeah, and I genuinely loved that. And I saw Brian May when he toured with Cozy Powell, when it was the Brian May band. That was great. But while we're talking about Cozy and we're talking about Brian May, so this is how I met Bob Richards. So 5 years ago, in Cirencester, which is where Cozy Powell was born, they did a tribute to him, and they put one of those blue plaques up on the wall like they do for So they did this thing, and it's outside of the town hall, and being part of the local music scene, everything like that, I got an invite to go. So I go in, and there's lots of Carl Palmer was there, and Susie Quattro.
Did you ask Carl was?
Carl Palmer, from.
Did he ask Carl was?
No, he didn't. No, he didn't ask. Yeah, I didn't. I should have said, "Oh, Jeff says hello."
And you were wrong.
Yeah, you were definitely wrong. But he was there, and Tony Iommi was there, and Neil Murray from Whitesnake, and there's loads of all these real legendary. Bernie Marsden was there. Loads of these cool guys that have been around and done the stuff. And over in the corner, there was this little guy with grey hair, and next to him was Cozy Powell's Stargazer Yamaha drum kit, that chrome one. Anyway, and it was just there. And I thought, oh man, that looks amazing, as you do. And next to it, there was this little, it was a Pearl export from this local drummer who had been asked to do his own tribute to Cozy to opening the proceedings. So he did his own version of the 1812, which Cozy used to do. And he did an amazing job with it. Hats off to Chris Allen for that. Anyway, Chris came off, and I said to him, "Oh, Chris, can I have a go on your kit?" I said, "You got it set up just how I set up my stage custom. Can I have a go?" He's like, "Yeah, man, go on, crack on." So I go up and I start playing, just doing this little groove. And my friend Stu, who is a guitar teacher I work with, he was there, and he was like, "Oh yeah, go Kelv," all this sort of thing. And then all of a sudden, I looked over to my right, and there was this mighty going on. And I looked over, and there's this little guy with grey hair giving it some. And I think, wow, this is really cool. So for about 2.5 minutes, we did this little duet. And there was all these guys watching, Brian May was there, stood in the doorway having a pint of beer with Tony Iommi next to him, all watching. And I was thinking, this is weird, because I am genuinely loving this, and these guys are watching what I'm doing. And it finished, went off, and I Bob gave us a wink and said, "Oh, no," it was all that sort of thing, and I went home. Didn't think anything more of it. It was anyway. A couple of weeks later, this video comes up onto YouTube, Cozy Pal tribute of me and Bob playing, and one of my friends said, that's Bob Richards. I was like, who's Bob Richards? Sorry, Bob, I don't mean, no offense to Bob at all. Hadn't heard of him. And so then I got told. I was like, no way. So he's like played with Shy, and he's played with Graham Bonnet, and he's played with AC/DC and all these other guys. It's like, yeah. And you've just done a duet with him. I was like, oh, man, it was just the weirdest thing. And so Bob and I have been in touch since then.
That's lovely. Yeah.
And it's just incredible to think that. And he's a top bloke. He's such a top bloke. But yeah, it was and that was it. And it was just and I thought at the time, if I never do anything else in my drumming career, I can say that I've done a drum duet with Bob Richards whilst Brian May and Tony Iommi are watching. That for me was my audience. Yeah,
it's immortalized on the old YouTube.
It is, and I love it for that, And I will share it with you actually. But it's just so cool. It's just and yeah, it's just brilliant. All those sort of things, and I think, and he was telling me about he went to the first Donington,
Slade.
Yeah, absolutely, and Rainbow were playing.
I love Rainbow. That's love.
And this is it. And he said when he saw that, and they obviously played Down to Earth, and he saw Cozy's kit, he said that was the game changer. He decided at that point, that's what I want to do. And it's like we're saying about all the guys we've looked up to, like Nico, wanting to be like that. That's what it's about. It's having.
I can remember, Maiden were what they were, but if I look back to my childhood and just feeling. Feeling that feeling in here, which you probably got, even talking about it, was feeling it down. I saw Bon Jovi, they're brilliant. The one that sticks out to me was Randy Castillo and Ozzy headlining Donington.
That guy is just, was, should I say.
Oh, what a loss.
Phenomenal. Actually, this is interesting. So I watched a documentary about him. And I don't know if you know that. Have you ever seen how he used to have his kit and his toms really, really flat?
Yeah, flat.
And apparently the reason he did that was because he got a louder sound out of them.
Right.
Apparently, that's why he did it, because he could get...
Do you ever see him live?
I never got the...
No, he used... On the Ultimate Sin tour, which is when I first saw him, he had a riser that went up and down like that. Yeah. And he used to do his solo. And I used to love it with, does what I do now with the double chinas. And
that's cool.
And he used to he got off his stool, went round his kit,
and stand on his bass drums.
Yeah.
And it's just wicked. But that's the showmanship, isn't it? And that's the other thing I love about rock and metal, is that I love the show, because I remember when I saw Megadeth on Countdown, and they had the stage set up like that cell on the album cover, and Nick's kit was sat at the back on this riser, it's about 10 foot high or something like that, with all of that chrome rack and stuff, like I was talking about earlier on. And I was like, whoa, that looks so cool. And they opened with Symphony, which was, I didn't expect that. I thought that was going to be an encore, and it's just that, and as that kicked in, man, let's have some more of that, please. It was just, Pantera supported them actually on that tour. I think Vulgar Display of Power was either out or just about to come out, but yeah, that was pretty phenomenal. That was.
I'll tell you a story. We had the Crow Jane Blue band I was in. We met up a year or so ago, and one of them was saying, if you remember, we played the Marquee one night, and we stayed at I can't remember what the hotel was called. It was like a big rock and roll hotel, and we were sat with these guys, and all I remember is, in fact, I'd forgotten about it, to be fair. There was these guys, and they were from Seattle, and they were playing a gig in London, and they had a tape machine in this bar at this hotel, and they were talking to us, dead nice guys, and they said, we've got this band from our hometown. They're going to be massive. And they played it. It just sounded like noise to us. And we were sat with Chris Cornell and Soundgarden
Wow.
And they were playing as this band called Nirvana,
That's
and I
incredible.
totally forgot about that. You know,
That's it though, isn't it? It's just amazing. Um, yeah, just wow. Just that's so cool
mm,
hearing that. Yeah, and I think this is it. It's like we said about it's this thread that goes through everything in some way or another, and something that moves on to something else. And it's like I can remember the day that Kurt Cobain passed away. So I was still living in Cornwall, still living with my parents, and I was working for an intruder, like burglar alarm company, and I was on call, and I was heading towards Falmouth, so over on the south coast, going along this dead straight road. It's a Saturday morning. I'd been called out because someone's alarm was going off, and I remember having that for whatever reason the tape hadn't switched over in the cassette player, and the news came on, and it said that he passed away. And I only have to close my eyes and I can remember exactly that happening. And it was the same time that the Chili Peppers, and at the time I didn't really like the Chili Peppers that much. They weren't one of those bands because I just thought they were a bit too avant-garde for me. I love them now, but that's another
well,
story.
it's about time. Blood Sugar, was it?
Yeah. And they were headlining Reading Festival. It was all around that time. So, and I was gutted because I couldn't get tickets to go to Reading. And I just remember hearing this news, and I was like, man, that's just gutting, to hear that had happened. It's just, yeah, sad
See,
times.
growing up, and again, same for you with the bands you liked. I was very into this LA scene. I went to live in LA in about 19, when I was about 22, and it was just incredible to be there. I was in Marine Del Rey, just south of Venice Beach. We had a pretty nice house with a mate, and it was incredible to be there and to sit. And I've been back a few times. Went back on my honeymoon, went back playing there. Saw my mates that I made out there, which was great.
Oh,
There's
awesome.
something about. I mean, it's probably people see LA as a shithole. I'm intending to go back with the kids actually, maybe as soon as all this COVID rubbish is over.
Yeah.
But there was something about that scene, and being out there, and I don't know. It's just again, it's all related to the music, isn't it? It's all like piped
Absolutely.
in for you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. I was talking to one of my older students about we were just I can't remember grunge came up in conversation. I can't remember how it came up, and he was talking about Pearl Jam and stuff. And I said to him, "Yeah, but there's a band you need to listen to, and they're called Mother Love Bone. And if you haven't heard them, you need to go and check them out." And he went, "Who are they?" I said, "I'm not going to say anymore. Just go and listen to them." And he went like, "Wow, I love that." And I said, "Yeah, well, actually." Couple of the guys from Mother Love Bone are two of the guys that actually went and formed Pearl Jam. So that's where they started. And he
So
can
there.
just amazing.
So
Just
check this out. So
yeah, go on.
1984,
Yeah,
13 years old, queuing for, I think we said before, queuing for Iron Maiden tickets to the Manchester Apollo overnight with my mates. Absolutely crapping ourselves in the middle of a really tough part of Manchester. There's a big queue of people, and I'm about 10th in the queue. We're getting tickets, yeah. And back then, I wasn't a fan of Led Zeppelin. I'd just grown up, Purple, whatever, but I wasn't a fan of Zeppelin. So we're freezing cold, we're queuing, box office open at 9 or whatever. And it gets to about 6:30 in the morning. There's a guy in front of me in the queue, and he's got this big stinking biker, and he's got a leather jacket with a denim over it, and he's got the symbols, Zoso, the Zeppelin symbols.
yeah.
I didn't know what they were. I didn't know what they were. So I get all cocky and confident, 13 years old, and I just tapped him on the shoulder and said, "Excuse me, mate." Sorry, "Excuse me, mate." And
Yeah.
I said, "What Zoso mean?" And this guy, this biker, he just turned around and he looked at me, and he just went, "Give me a dead arm." He didn't even say anything. And I was in the queue like that, like trying just like one tear like that. But I know where they are now.
Absolutely. Well, yeah. I hear they're quite big.
Yeah. Well, funny story is when I came back from America, I thought, how am I going to carry on here now? So I made myself a biography. It was a 10, 12-page biography or whatever. Professional photographs, demo tape, which is tapes back in the day,
Nice.
and I sent it out to 250 management companies, which is unheard of, really. Got the PL audition from it, got a couple of other sniffs, Steve Wright television show, all that rubbish. But I was at my mum's house and the phone goes, hello. He goes, this bloke goes, is Jeff there? And I went, yeah, it's me. He says, I've got your tape. I'm going to put it in the office and I'll ring you if I need you. I went, oh, thanks for that. He says, right, bye. I said, oh, who is it? And he went, Peter Grant. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Wow.
definitely. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Great
But
stuff.
it's so cool but that's it though, isn't it? It's all those sorts of things, and I it's funny. When I was talking to Bob, he's saying when he met Lemmy, and how he kind of he was playing for a Welsh band called Man at the time, and so he was he'd gone from he was playing. So I think they were playing in Newport, something like that, Newport Centre. Anyway, he goes to the thing, and one of his mates was teching for Motorhead. So he went, oh, I can't remember what his mate was called. And he went, can you tell Lem? I'd love to meet him, hook him up. And so anyway, literally they go on stage, and apparently Lemmy's opening line was, you love your rock down here in South Wales, and you got the Man Band. So Bob goes, but I drum for the Man Band, and the guy goes, you got to meet Lem. So he took him backstage, and that's it. They hit it off, and they became mates after that. And every time it's just incredible. And he just love it.
The guy who's married to the girl who runs Bloodstock,
yeah,
used to follow Kill11 This back in the 90s, and he always used to take time out to see him at gigs in London. All sign stuff. Always say he ended up as Motorhead's tour manager.
Brilliant.
And now he's running Bloodstock. So you just don't know, who you're going to meet.
It's so important. All these connections are just so important. They really are. I met John Coughlin from like the Frantic Four, so proper when Quo were like hardcore Quo, as I like to call it.
Full knacker.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was a festival. We were doing we used to do this stage at this festival where we used to play. We just put on local talent like singer-songwriters or kids who've been learning to play stuff, and just give them a chance to play in front of an audience and whatever.
Yeah.
And we used to go on the Friday night because the mayor had to do his little speech and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, we used to go, and it was just a good chance to schmooze with a few people. Anyway, John Coughlin was there, and I got introduced to him, and we just started talking about kits and stuff, like no different than what we've done tonight. And it's so funny because what made me crack up more than anything else, the mayor of Cirencester was trying to be introduced to him, and he turned around, he went, but I'm talking about drums, that doesn't matter. and he turned his back on him, and he sat down on a hay bale with me, and we literally spent the whole evening just talking about drums and stuff. And yeah, he wasn't interested in talking to anyone else. He literally cool. It was so cool talking to him. And they were trying to get what is John Coughlin's Status Quo, that because he's got his own version, hasn't he, that's going out.
My mate Nigel, he's a big Quo fan down your end of the woods, actually.
All right, yeah.
Yeah, he's from Cornwall. He's a funny guy. He's massively into him. He goes to see him, Coughlin or whatever. Well, he did do.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, as you've done on these chats with these talented drummers and stuff, you've been doing, the lucky thing is it's given us the ability to go places we never have gone and to tell stories, just mad, silly little stuff, which, you just get. I'll tell you a funny one. Paradise Lost were playing in Russia, and there was a guy in the Moscow, in the government, who was a massive metal fan, huge Paradise Lost fan. And he set up an initiative in Russia in 2008 where he did a battle of the bands. And it was nationwide, and it whittled down to a point where there was, I can't remember now, but there was probably 5 bands in the final of this battle of the bands. And they did the final at Gorky Park.
Amazing.
Where the big, I'll Stuart was telling me about, does all the trucks he was telling me about last week, because he did it with Skid Row back in the day. But anyway,
Oh man, Skid Row,
and
there's a band.
yeah, first time when they were first round, yeah. Anyway, so and then they asked us if we'd headline it, this show, and fun enough, I saw it on YouTube the week. It was great, but anyway, and the amazing thing with that was we were backstage with all pictures of Hendrix when Hendrix had played there, and like real history, Beatles and all of that. Anyway, so we get to Russia, and it's a Friday evening, and it's the middle of summer. It's absolutely boiling, and we get put in this beautiful hotel, and I've got a Maiden t-shirt on, black shorts, flip flops, right?
As you do.
And it's this guy, the limousine drops us. They're really treating as well. Drop us at the hotel. We're knackered. 2 hours. We're going to pick you up for dinner. Be ready at 7. So normal thing, Come down at 7. I've got Maiden t-shirt on, black shorts and flip flops. These black Hummers pull up. Yeah. So it's like, okay. So we get in these black Hummers, and it takes us to the Golden Ring Hotel, which is this very, very posh hotel in Moscow. And you walk in, and there's Fabergé eggs, diamond encrusted on the wall. They take us up to the 11th floor, whatever it is, where they've got a restaurant in the round, and there's no one in there. It's got these incredible views of Moscow in the round, and it's obviously £1 million to even go in there. And they've closed it for the night for us.
Wow.
Right, so we sit down, and I'm thinking, this is really uncomfortable now. And the next thing you know, door opens, and 12 suited Russian dignitaries from the Russian government walk in to have dinner with us. They don't speak any English. We don't speak any Russian. And I'm looking down thinking, I should have put a tie on.
I'm underdressed.
Yeah, slightly underdressed, like really awkward.
Oh man, it's mad, isn't it?
Crazy.
But that's the sort of stuff I love. I love hearing that, because I think it's just, it puts a reality on everything,
Yeah.
and also it makes everything feel so much smaller than it can sometimes appear.
But at the end of the day, PL or even now with My Dying Bride, we're just fans of music. We're just lucky. I mean, I've got my first gigs with My Dying Bride in 2 weeks. We're doing O2, Kentish Forum, and Leeds O2. No pressure.
No pressure. Leeds O2 has got a bit of a reputation, hasn't it, for as a live venue?
Yeah, I don't need any more nerves.
Sorry, Jeff. I'm going to chuck that in there.
No, it's fine. But, it's incredibly lucky to be doing this. I feel like with PL, it was like we're just 5 mates, 5 rock and rollers. You used to be on the American tour bus having a Maiden off, and me and Nick Holmes having like fisticuffs if you got it wrong and all this sort of stuff. It just,
awesome. I love it. That's just so cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah, but so we're getting ready for that. So I rehearsed last night, rehearsing tomorrow, production, and then off we go.
Amazing. That's going to be epic. That's going to be so cool. It's going to be really good. It's going to.
It's the band's first gig for 4 years.
Wow.
For various reasons. Before I joined, there was an issue with Erin, the singer's daughter's been really ill, so the band just went off the road. She's luckily recovered now, and it was full steam ahead. There was a wonder whether the band would be back together, but there's so much love for the band. It's the pressure isn't. I get the music now, which has been a struggle. It's been really difficult for me to learn, and I feel like I'm there. But you've not just got the weight of getting the songs right. You've got to remember there's a band who've been together 31 years with a huge fan base, and you've got to go and do it justice.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because I got to meet Jason Sutter, who played with Smash Mouth back in the 90s, and he's done some stuff with like New York Dolls but he does a bit of session stuff as well. And he was telling me that he got asked to do this gig for an American band called Our Lady Peace, and they were playing the LA Coliseum, so big venue, and it was a bit of a homecoming thing. And their drummer couldn't do it because his wife just had a baby, so there was no way he was going to be able to be there. So they gave him the call, and they said, Jace, can you learn 30 tracks for us? And he was like, there's no way I'm going to learn 30 tracks in in the time you want me to before I get to LA to come and do it. There's just no way. So he said he spent the whole time on the plane listening to the tracks that they were wanting him to play, and he thought, right, I'm going to pick out all the core bits of the song that you can't not play, and then any of the other bits that if they're not quite the same, it's not going to be to matter too much because the core of the song is going to be there. So, and that's what he did, to the point where they were so chuffed with him for filling in like the way he did. They offered him to go off and do like a few more dates with them to give their drummer more time to be with his missus, which I thought was a really lovely thing to hear.
Yeah.
But I think you're like you're saying about like fans hearing it. It is about the core of the song, isn't it? So you got, it'd be like listening to Iron Maiden if Nico couldn't do it, and you listen to the Trooper without that dum 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 dum. That song wouldn't sound right. There's certain key parts.
Definitely, yeah.
That wouldn't be right.
But you see, for the Drac Times thing, there's certain things that Lee played, and I think I can't do that. I can't, So I would just do my version of it. And I said, if it's not right, it's a moment in time, really. You're right. There's certain things, timing, signatures, whatever. You're absolutely right. But you also want to put your signature on it.
Of course you do, because that's what we do as drummers. We still want to have a slight twist. It's our interpretation. You see all these guys that are doing like drum covers on YouTube and whatever, and they're, you think, yeah, all right, done a pretty damn good job of that. It might not be exactly on the money to the track, but it's their version of it, which is how it should be taken, But the reason for playing it in the first place is because, there's something in that kickstarts something in here that makes you go, that's why I want to play it, because, yeah, it's ignited this inside, And unless you're a drummer, you can't. I think it's quite something that's unique to drummers. I always refer to it. Not that I'm a Star Wars geek, but as the Force, because there's something it's very kinetic. Obviously, that's because it's very physical with what we do. But it's that thing when you're playing something and the expression is right on what you're playing, and there's that magic moment, that sweet spot. There's nothing like it. I don't think, and I do think it's the Force. Genuinely, I can't explain it any other way, because it's just an energy that you can't give anything else to. I don't know. Do you know what I mean?
With MDB, with MDB, they play a certain way. Well, I've never done before. I'm like a momentum and I had to kind of relearn how to play it, because they're very straight and you do follow the guitars, and it's taken a long time to get into a different way of playing, because I don't know what I'm going to play till I play it.
Yeah.
I'm not a reader. I'm totally from the back in the day of playing to records and bookcases and whatever. And that's been more difficult for me, in that you have to play a bit more straight and a bit more, what's the word? Regimented.
Yeah. It's got a different approach, hasn't it? I think, definitely. Yeah.
The drumming for the stuff on Drac Times, I definitely never listened to particularly what Lee did to it. So, for instance, on the song like The Last Time, I would put some sort of, have a look at the YouTube stuff,
Yeah, no, I will. Yeah.
Extra stuff which just I hear,
And that comes down to the space that we were talking about earlier on, doesn't it? It's that when you hear the gap and you think, actually, something should go in that.
The Last Time is just straight foot to the floor. So I'll play the beat. And then for the second half of the verse, I'm putting in a bass drum and a run, which drives it.
Yeah.
You hear that. And then what I do as well is I'm just going, there's time. So I'm going, doom, doom, doom. And it just gives it rhythmic. It doesn't have to be over the top or taking over, but it's just about filling time with the rhythm,
Yeah. And I think that's it. And I think we all hear different things in different space.
Now, Thomas Lang might do it differently.
Yeah, but that's it though, isn't it? That's it. That's the interpretation. I mean, now I've got one of my students we play "Can't Stop" by the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and just before COVID hit, we did a drum show in Cirencester. I hired out a theatre and we had it for the whole day. I did like a show in the afternoon, which is all the kids I teach in school, and then I did a show in the evening, which was for my private students. So it's had a bit more highbrow to it, and I showed there was this one bit which in this little breakdown bit, and I showed him to play this little offbeat thing, and I could hear it, and I knew where it needed to go, and I said, Nick, I think you really need to put this bit in because I think it will just add something else to the track, which he did, and he nailed it. And I had this a guest drummer do a little kind of talk at the end, which is why all this sort of stuff happened. And he was stood next to me in the wings, and he went, "Man, that bit sounds sick in there. I'd never heard that, And I said, "Yeah, but it feels like it's right." And he went, "Yeah, man, I can really hear why you've put that in." And I thought that was a really lovely thing to hear from him, that he thought it was great.
What you do is, like, I went to coach, a reasonably good level kids football team.
Yeah.
And what I realized was it's whether it's drumming or football, we won, a good club and we're a least developed team, but we won cups and stuff. It was brilliant, really. But if you've got an interest, look at what you're doing with those kids. Whatever they go and do in their life, if they're good at something and they've got a belief or they grab onto something, in these days of the internet where everything's so instant, it's everything I hate because they don't wait for their album covers and they're not able to get on the bus and look at the power slave.
There's something about that, isn't there?
Yeah, but there's something, they're never going to have that. No. But what you're doing, like one kid I had, he was like a small kid, but he used to walk in, chest puffed out. And I was having a team talk once and I said, "Just remember, guys, doing the Fergie. There's no I in team." And he just said, "Yeah, but there's 5 in individual brilliance." I was like, "I didn't ask you anything." But that was the point, is this kid was a lesser developed football player, but he was part of something. And I said to him when we won the cup, I said, "You'll never take that away from you. Whatever you go and do in your life now,
it's always
you've won that cup."
Yeah, damn straight. And I think it's so important. And I think this is it. It's empowering them, to give them something to take forward, in their, whatever it is in their life. You're so right. I think it's so important. I'm hoping to do another drum show next year, in early 22, because they're gonna, the guys are gonna need some time to get their heads around learning some stuff for it. But yeah, there's room for this type of showcase. There's not enough of that going on at all. I think it's just what a platform, and I feel blessed that I'm in a position to be able to do that as well.
No, but absolutely, it's a gift really to be able to do it.
It is. I feel like tonight's a privilege being able to talk to you about everything we've talked about. It's
bloody hell,
mate. I do. I think it's been awesome.
Someone said that at my house.
But I do think that. I just genuinely do, because it means a lot to me, but what's also really good about this, and I'll probably cut this bit off the end when I come to do the editing, but I've been, off the back of this, I've been offered to do a slot on local radio based in town, because they love what I'm doing so much. They want to broadcast it, so it's going to become a regular thing. So what their plan, hopefully, is to then do the show, but invite, like yourself, to come on, and we choose the music we're going to play in the program, but we'll talk about stuff in between times and play tunes. Oh my God, can't believe I'm being asked to do something like that.
Right, so when you're 14 and you're with your best mate and you crack open a can of Strongbow,
White Diamond.
All right, Diamond White. I remember that, some bad nights on that. And then you say, right, and you each pick a song. And you listen to it all the way through. And that's exactly what you and I would do over a can of Strongbow tonight.
That is what we do, and I think.
Or look at this. See if I can open my drinks cabinet. Is it there? Yeah, there it is. Look at this. You like this? It's locked, so the older one won't get in.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
Yeah. Oh, it's open anyway. Right. Okay. Get yourself a can of Old Earth, the official beer of My Dying Bride.
Oh, look at that, man! I didn't even know that existed.
Yeah, it's done really well actually. It's
That's
going out all over the
really
place.
That's really cool. I'd like a bottle of Trooper. I've got to be honest.
Yeah.
That's a delicious beer. That is. I'll have to try and get some of that.
Yeah, it's a local brewery in Yorkshire, Dartland they're called. But you see,
Okay.
Robinson's who do the Trooper
Yeah.
beer. That's the local brewery for
Oh,
us.
I love the Trooper. It's so nice. And they're doing another one, don't they? Red and the black.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
which I've not had the opportunity to try that. So, um, I might have to save that for download when Maiden are playing. I think that's when I'm gonna have to get some of that.
We were just saying actually when we get on this tour bus when with My Dying Bride, it'll be like the longest queue for the toilet. None of this all like drinking. It'll just be like taking turns to need a wee in the night because we're all got to that age.
That's the problem, though, isn't it? You start drinking too much, and then it's like, oh man, I really need a wee. It's not good.
Yeah, yeah.
It happens to us all. So if and when the radio show's ready to go, would you be up for coming on doing a guest?
Absolutely, of course.
Mate, amazing. That'd be so cool. So we can add some Power Slave in there. We could add some Somewhere in Time in there. We'd have to have something off, perhaps Number of the Beast. I think we couldn't not. We could have
Children of the Damned. Children of the Damned all day, mate.
Fair play, fair play.
I'll tell you what I did. Just must tell you before we go.
Yeah.
Over the summer, I went to my mum's and I cleared out a room of all stuff from when I lived there.
Yeah.
And I've got all loads of really rare. I've got Soundhouse tapes. I've got all loads of rare Maiden stuff.
Keep it, man. It's worth a fortune.
Well, I don't know if it is, but I brought it back in. I also found loads of memorabilia, like
Nice.
old symbol magazines and rhythm, and I found a comp slip
Yeah.
from Stonor Drums in about 1985 when I was 14, and obviously written to them asking for an endorsement,
Brilliant.
and it just says, "Dear Jeff, Sonor don't sponsor, big word, anybody. Good luck."
Wow. It's funny, isn't it? Because I had my mum recently. She moved house about 4 years ago, and she gave me a box with some stuff in, and in there was a letter coming from Glastonbury Festival Trust saying why they hadn't accepted us to play at that year's festival. So
Yeah,
I'd obviously written to them saying why, because the band I was in at the time were called Insanity Beach, why we should be playing at Glastonbury, why we were good enough to do it. Yeah, and there was this letter, and I did it the following year. I've got 2 letters from them, but I've kept them, so it's really cool.
That's what you should. Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's because it's part of it, though, isn't it?
Well, we just having dreams, aspirations, and, trying.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what it's all about. It's all about dreams, working hard, and trying to be at the best you can at what you can. I think there's a lot to be said for that. That's the only way you get it. I mean, some people get it easier than others, but it is definitely about working hard.
I think nobody out there who's really doing it, back to what we said, has done it without sacrifice.
Absolutely, and I think you're absolutely right. It's all comes down to you've got to give up something in order to make it happen. So yeah, it's interesting. So just before we round up, so I was talking to Pete Pete Newdeck. So he played for Paul Di'Anno, he played for Killers, and he played when Paul Di'Anno was just doing when it was Di'Anno. And he went out and he's toured a lot with him. And we had a bit of a laugh and a giggle about what that experience was like. And he said he's an angry man, and I just thought that's.
I did meet him once, and I'll tell you what I remember about that is he had a minder with him, and you don't have a minder with you unless you're expecting to need a minder.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Oh, it's funny, isn't it?
So I'll tell you last story. I'll tell you, we're touring in the US with Nightwish, and the singer Annette, she's a fantastic singer.
Yeah, she is.
She's a brilliant, really lovely girl as well, Ace. And the tour was great for us. And one night I woke up, and I think we were traveling into Florida, and Nightwish were on our bus with loads of equipment. So I'm in like a early bed, early riser. It just is what I am, not very rock and roll. And so I'm like, oh, what's going on? And their bus had broken down, and they were catching a lift with us to get to the next show. So I'm thinking, oh, well, I'm up now. It's like 8 o'clock in the morning. And I said to Annette, listen, thinking about her voice and all that. So just use my bunk. And she's like, oh, thanks so much. So anyway, I'm thinking a couple of hours, get a cup of tea, all that sort of stuff. So I'm sat in this lounge of this tour bus with all the guys out of Nightwish who were still drinking vodka at 9 o'clock in the morning, talking Finnish. Like this. And it was 7 hours to the gig, by which time I'm doing that. Nah. Anyway, so the gig happens, and I come straight on the bus, straight into bed, because I'm just knackered. I get up next day. I get up about 2 hours later, whatever, and everyone's having a drink in the lounge. So I walk in, and one says, "All right, Jeff," and I'm covered head to toe like in glitter, like David Bowie, because she's been in my bunk. So the last night of the tour in Atlanta, there's a guy called Iwo, who's their manager, brilliant guy, and he's a big drinker, or he was. And I just said to him, I said, you know what, Iwo, it's been a fantastic tour. Thanks ever so much for having us. And I said, will you be sad to see us go? And he just goes, he's like a Viking, with that long blonde hair. He goes, no, tonight I only cry tears of booze. Great.
Yeah, that's the thing, though, isn't it? It's just, I've never experienced anything like that. I'd love to have had a snippet, because I think it would be really cool. And I'd love it would probably never happen. I'd love the opportunity to play in front of a big crowd. Said this to Derby just once, because I just think it would be just what a thing to say. Yeah, I've played in a big crowd, but I know it's not about that. But I just think it'd be a really cool thing to have said I've done it,
Well, interestingly enough, Mark and I, the Kill to This guitar player, who's a producer, we always said we'd love Kill to This. We've got a new album coming out. It sounds amazing.
I can't wait to hear that.
It's brutal. It's absolutely brutal. But anyway, we said we'd love to have one more tour bus tour, because we did all those tours together. And interestingly enough, he's going to be doing front of house for My Dying Bride.
Oh, wow, nice.
So we are going to get on that bus together, just not as unfortunately as a band. So
Oh, but that's cool. It's good that you're doing it in some way.
Yeah, 100%. We're still there. 35 years on.
Too cool. Right. It's got to be done. It's all about it's all about that. What more can I say? It's about rocking in the free world. We've got to do it. Just got to do it. And the longer we have that passion, the longer everything will carry on. It's Knights of the Torch. We got to keep the flame burning, because that's what brings the younger generation on.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, thanks for having me on,
mate. You're an absolute legend, and it's been amazing talking to you tonight. I've loved it. It's been brilliant. Be really cool.
Not bored you to death.
No, you haven't. It'd be really cool to do it again. Like I said, once the show is going on air, I will. We'll try and sort that out. I'm not sure how that's all going to work at the moment. We're still talking about it. Trying to get a sponsor for the show at the moment as well, just to cover a few, things, but also to put their name on it, because I think that would be really good. It'd be nice to have a brand of some kind, sponsoring it, because of what we're doing, and then it'll get more mileage, more legs, more people.
Just message me afterwards. So I've got a few ideas for that, possibly. I'll put you in touch with those people I said about I would as well.
Mate, you're a superstar. I will do that. Amazing, Jeff. Thank you so much, fella.
Just before I go.
Yes, man.
Look at that again. Look at that.
Oh, mate, I tell you what, it's a piece of majestic engineering.
Look at the detail in that.
That is. So what is that? That's a 14-inch snare.
40 by 6.5 Merlin.
Nice. Very nice. My snare's only a 13, but it's pretty damn loud. So yeah.
Look, it's not competition.
Oh, mate, it looks awesome. It's really cool.
Cool.
Jeff, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. You look after yourself. Stay safe. Good luck with everything that's coming up with My Dying Bride stuff, and launch the Kill to This album. Everything. Bring it on. Rock forever, fella.
Thanks for everything, mate.
You're a superstar. Thank you.
Did you press record?
Yes. There we
Yeah,
go.
we'll do it all again. I see. I made you worry then, didn't I? I made you worry.
You did, genuinely. Mate, amazing. Look after yourself and stay safe. All right, and
Thanks, mate.
I'll speak to you soon, bud. You take care. See ya.
Cheers. Thanks, son.